And Anna and I, being in the real estate business, get tons of questions that we are asked a lot about anything real estate related. So we have decided to start this new chat called Keeping It Real Estate. And what we want to do is we want this to be interactive. So we want you to be able to ask questions of us. But we thought each week we would sit down and have our coffee chat and pick a topic that we want to talk about. So what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about appraisals and why we have appraisals and why you pay as a buyer for your appraisal and the different steps and types of appraisals.
Awesome. What I'm going to do, if you want to talk about maybe what appraisals are, is I'm going to try and pull up our Periscope broadcast right now because I want to be able to see if people are asking us questions. This is kind of impromptu. We're going to try and have a regularly scheduled broadcast, from here on out, but this is our first one, so we're cutting our teeth on it.
And I believe they'll run Fridays usually?
Yeah, usually Fridays, or we'll try and pick a day that we think that will get most viewers. In fact, give us your feedback, and we'd love to hear when would be a good time for you. The good thing about Periscope, Anna, is that it does save it for later, so we can run the podcast later or keep them on our websites. Okay. You have AnnaJonesRealEstate.com, and I have KimberlyB.com, so we'll probably try and put them on both of those. I'm going to see if I can pull up our broadcast really quick here so I can ask questions. And why don't you tell everybody, what
Appraisals are about?
What is an appraisal and who needs one, or why do we need them?
Okay. Actually, when you purchase a home, it could go, people do appraisals basically when they're thinking about selling their home sometimes or refinancing. So there's several different types of appraisals because when an appraiser comes out to when you're going to refinance your house, it's a little bit different of appraisal. They don't seem to go all out on making sure they have the all the little things in your house and details.
And you're talking about appraisals that are typically required by a lender, right? So
Correct.
Somebody that's talking about refinancing their house, or they have actually put an offer on a house to buy it, the lender wants to ensure that the house is worth what the loan amount is, right?
They're doing it for the lender, and they want to make sure that the loan is worth every penny they're getting for it.
Okay. And I want to get into more of that, but I want to talk about the other kind of appraisal that we often get asked for, and that is, Anna and I list a lot of properties. We do our homework. We do our comparative market analysis where we are looking at comparables, houses in and around your house that have sold typically within the last 6 months or so, right? And as well as sort of what prices the market will support, and that's how we typically come up with the price that we want to sell it. Well, everybody thinks that their house is worth more than it actually is sometimes.
It's very personal to some people.
Yes.
It's my house is worth $1 million.
Exactly. And we'd love to sell it for that, but we want to do it for what the market will support. So sometimes we do recommend that that people get an appraisal, because I think that they feel more comfortable about the pricing if they know that an appraiser has appraised it.
And it gives the third party person, which is the appraiser, the ability to say, okay, you may think it's worth this, and your agent may think it's worth that, but this is truly what it's going to qualify for when we go to sell it.
So we've talked about future chats that we want to have where we're going to try and get maybe some of these industry professionals on for us. So we have a few appraisers in mind, and maybe we'll get them back on the show where they can kind of tell you what they look at when they are appraising a house.
Yeah.
So typically, what does an appraisal cost?
It depends on the size of the house. We see them about $350 to $4 something. It depends on the size of the house, basically, and how much they have to appraise, and the land, everything, because they kind of do the outside of the house, and they have to measure everything off, because that's how the appraisal is based off of your bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage.
Okay.
So that's how they've come up with it. And then they give you some more money value, basically, for if you've updated your bathrooms, your kitchens, any kind of updates to the house. So
and that is
really
one of the questions that I ask people when, a lot of people kind of want to know the value of their house over the telephone without you ever going to see it. And we can typically tell them, look, we can give you a price just based on what public records say, but public records don't know that you just upgraded your kitchen or you finished your basement or things like that. So keep that in mind too when you're going on some of these websites where they're giving you a Z estimate or valuations of your house, that seeing it in person is going to give you the best valuation too. So, okay, do appraisals factor in the value of other homes in the area?
Yes, they do. I'm not an appraiser, first off and foremost, let me say
And we
that.
don't pretend to be one.
we do CMAs, which doesn't make us an appraisal, but I do know appraisers look at the other values in the market. They look at the fact that if there's the solds, that's what they want to look at, basically. What's sold, how much it's sold for, is it the similar value of your house, is it 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, is it a rambler, split foyer, those type of things.
All right, let me add on to that question, because this is a question that I get asked all the time. What if there are a lot of distressed properties in the neighborhood that have sold for less?
They do have to, some of them, they bring those into it, but bottom line is they have to find something that's a sale similar to yours. It has to be, if it's a standard sale, no foreclosure, no short sale, then basically they have to go out of your neighborhood if there's nothing in your neighborhood to find.
That's good to know, because I think people get a little concerned if they know that the house next door went to foreclosure and it sold for really less. Is that going to bring down the value of my house?
They have to look for something similar to yours. So if it's a standard sale, they really have to do something like that.
Awesome. So going back to the cost of the appraisal and what the actual appraiser does, is it any different when you hire an appraiser when you're trying to determine the value of the house that you want to sell it for versus an appraiser that a lender has come in?
It's not supposed to, but we do see a little bit different sometimes. I'm like I said, I'm not an appraiser, but we do see a difference in that, and it's really hard to say because when you see it and somebody's come in and they've done their initial what it's appraised for, and then we put it on the market, and then what actually we can get buyers to come in and pay for it, that's what determines it. It's basically what the buyer is going to pay for.
Okay. If someone decided before they put the house on the market that they wanted to get an appraisal done, can that be used during the sale?
You can give it to the buyer. You can give it to their lender to show, but bottom line is it's what they still have to do their own appraisal.
Okay, so the lender's still going to order an appraisal regardless, but sometimes it does help for people to feel comfortable about placing the order, knowing that what the house is
especially if it's a unique house. If you're looking at a house that you don't see anywhere, and it's you've done so much to it, and you've added on to the house, and it has a great patio and deck, and you've just done more above and beyond, then it's probably good to do an appraisal beforehand, because it's really hard to give that kind of value.
Okay, great.
Then there's basically the big thing is letting them know all the things that you have done to your house. If you've added the roof, it's good for the agent to know, to tell the appraiser. When you go out, people put new HVAC, new bathrooms, new kitchen, new windows, new roof, anything new give your agent that list so they can give it to them.
So give it to the appraiser to help it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're not going to see if you. I mean, they may, but they may not know certain things you've done to add to the house. The hot water heater that might be hidden in the closet or something like that. That's brand new that you just got within a year. Because that 1 year, anything they give more value to something that's been done within that first year.
Okay, that's good to know. And a lot of people are into going green or energy efficiency, and those things do add value.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing. I think it's really great because I feel like our millennials and our younger people really care about those things. So they're good for us to have anyway. So when we list your house, it's not only good for the appraiser, it's good for the listing because people are searching for that green information. So.
All right, here's the question we get asked all the time. What if somebody listed their house for a price and they got a buyer who agreed to it, and the lender orders the appraisal, and the appraisal does not come in at the sales price? What happens? What are the options? What happens? What happens next?
Well, actually, we just got asked that question. What if your house, you got an offer?
This is actually the opposite. You get an offer for $200, but the house, comes
that's
in.
what
exactly.
it's the same thing. So if someone's getting you got an offer for above and beyond the list price, and someone's willing to pay it, and according to market, that's supposed to dictate what our market does. Unfortunately, an appraiser can come in and kill that in a second. An appraiser, no offense to the appraisers, but they kind of rule our lives sometimes. You've got several things that you can do here. Everybody has to come to some sort of.
So you're renegotiating.
You're renegotiating with that new price. You got a $200,000 price, and the appraisal came in at $190,000. There's a $10,000 difference there. So first thing you have to do is make sure those comparables were correct. So you can say, okay, I found some other comparables. Let's give them to this appraiser.
So he can go back and take another look.
Yeah, if you feel that it wasn't done correctly. And then the next thing we can do is if they determine that they did their appraisal correctly, is that you go back to your renegotiating. Okay, can we come up with renegotiating our closing help, or can we come up with does the person have cash? Because if they pay cash for that, it's what the buyer dictates how much the house is worth. So somebody can come up with that difference, or they can renegotiate their closing help they've given. And that's about it.
So somehow or another, you're making up the difference of that $10,000, because the bottom line is a lender is not going to loan above and beyond what the appraisal comes in.
No.
So that $10,000 difference we have, lender's got the $190,000 covered. We need to figure out how to make up the difference from the 10. Sometimes the seller will come down on their price. Sometimes the buyer will bring in cash to make up the difference, or you're negotiating the other details, the closing help.
Closing help
And things like that. Great question, you guys. So we love this, and these are the types of things that we're looking to do. And did anybody have any other questions about appraisals, or is there anything else we missed that we wanted to touch on?
I don't think so, and I think, like I said, we were talking about, we're going to try to bring in an appraiser later, and hopefully that appraiser can,
we'll give you a heads up when they're going to do it, so that you can get your questions ahead of time, and hopefully get those answered. So, okay, one last question. How many days is an appraisal good for?
It's supposed to be 6 months. So if you've got an FHA appraisal, they're good for 6 months. A VA appraisal is good for 6 months. Conventional, it doesn't dictate the amount of months. Even though I'm saying 6 months, it really only rides out about 4 months, and then you've got to do another appraisal, which will get you added time.
The reason why somebody might ask that is if this deal fell through as a result,
right,
and they wanted to use it for the next offer that came in, could the lender...
The appraisal sticks with that house. So if it's an FHA appraisal or VA, if it's an FHA or VA appraisal and you did an appraisal and it came in under what you wanted and that whole deal fell apart, unfortunately, then, and nobody could come to some sort of terms to work it out, then that same appraisal for that 190 less than the 200 that you had it on the market for is going to ride out for 6 months. So you just have to know that the next person who comes in is going to have that exact same appraisal, because it's in their system.
Are sellers typically going to reduce the price of the house when they put it back
Typically,
on?
that's how it ends up being. Or
Which
they
makes
work that
sense.
out. It usually makes more sense just to work out the deal and move forward.
Yeah,
you know,
nobody
if you
wants-
can financially.
Exactly.
You know.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today, and send us your feedback. We want to know what types of topics that you're interested in learning more about. We'll pick some of our own based on the questions that we get asked the most.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see you next week. Have a great day.